Good morning, brothers and sisters. On the spot here, physically, I can meet you, as well as those on the Zoom, all the Zoomers. Good morning, everyone. So for the previous 6 sessions, there were different speakers talking about living in harmony with different groups of people. Yeah. Firstly, it was with oneself. How do we live in harmony with oneself, with ourselves? Yeah. When we are alone, or when we are in a group, or when we are in a congregation. Now, how do we live harmony with ourselves? Yeah, regardless where we are. Then we learn about how to live in harmony with our family members who are close with us, and probably every day we have to meet them. How to live in harmony with our relatives. Yeah, we may not see them very often, yeah, but from time to time we are meeting them. Yeah. Then friends and colleagues, yeah, every day also. Friends and colleagues, especially we have to spend probably 8 hours at least. Yeah, at least 8 hours with them, or even more. Then last week is about society. So I think this will give us a broader perspective, yeah, on how to be at peace with oneself. Because in learning the Dhamma, the Buddha, our Lord teacher, is the one who is very peaceful. Muni, Sakya Muni. Muni is silent. Silent is not just in terms of speech. It's not the matter of not talking, but Muni is the quality of someone who do not just have a lot of words from the mouth, but inside it is also quiet and peaceful, silent. Yeah, even though we are sitting down here, silent, no talking, but how about our mind? Mind silent, or a lot of thoughts? Yeah, thinking where should I go later, or thinking when these sessions will end. Yeah, so there are still thoughts going on. So it is not Muni, but the Buddha is someone who has silenced his mind. Yeah, total silence. No more cravings, no more desires in whatsoever form. So is Sakya Muni, the silent one of the Sakyan clan. Yeah, Maha Muni, yeah, the great silent one. So today we are going to wrap up this series with how to live in harmony with the world. Yeah. So we're starting from oneself, and then now we widen the scope. So today is the last series, last sessions of this series, Living in Harmony, is about the world. Now, probably to just to give some historical background, yeah, from the sutta about the evolution of the world, for your interest. Yeah, may not directly in tune with the topic today, living in harmony, but I would think that it's also interesting for you to know how our societies come about. Yeah, the evolution of the society. Now, if you are interested in this topic, which is very closely related to the world, yeah, is this sutta called Aganya Sutta, found in Digha Nikaya number 27. Okay, now Aganya Sutta. Aga, if you see the term Aga, A-G-G-A, it means highest. Right? Aganya means highest knowledge. So in this context, it means this world. About our world. Yeah, this world. Now, in this sutta, the Buddha actually addressed to two Brahmins called Vasita and Bharadvaja. And the Buddha explained in stages how the universe and also the human society are said to evolve at the start of each kalpa and or the cosmic cycle, and also the birth of social order and its structure. So how does the forecast come about? Yeah, the Buddha lived in India. So pertaining to the society at that time, the Buddha talked about how this forecast came about, yeah, in this particular sutta, Aganya Sutta. So the narration actually describes how these beings, human beings, initially are very fragile, not like now. Yeah, this is a very gross presentation of a human being. Yeah, of being, a very gross presentation. There are beings which has less denser bodies. Yeah, like devas, spirit. They don't have a gross body like us. Yeah. So in this sutta, you can also see how beings has denser and denser body. Yeah, interesting. I found that this sutta was very interesting when I first came about this. Yeah, so you may want to read it up. So the narration describes how beings at this stage are fragile, but motivated by greed. Yeah, because of greed, want to acquire more and more and more, and begins to consume matter and gradually acquire denser bodies. And in due course, there occurs sexual differentiation. Initially, there was none. It's just beings. Yeah, but after that, with greed increases, and of course, other factors. There are this sexual differentiation. Now you have male and female, and then also procreation, reproductions happen. And human societies organized on caste lines come into being. So this is how they are forecast. Yeah. Due to greed, wickedness arises. Because of greed, so people steal, people kill, people steal, people commit other wrongdoings. Then a king is appointed, right, to enforce the law. So you can see that there is some narration of the forming of a society headed by a king over here. Yeah. So the purpose of this narration is to refute the Brahmin tradition that their caste enjoys an intrinsically privileged status due to being created from the mouth of Brahma, because they believe that they are from the mouth of Brahma. Yeah, from the mouth. It's given birth. But this narration actually refutes that belief that they are from the mouth of Brahma. But because of evolution, yeah, because of processes, the gradual processes, then the human societies come about. Okay, so in this sutta, it also implies that the universe has no traceable beginning. You cannot pinpoint, oh, this is the beginning of human life. No, right? But it is a cycle, continuous cycle. Yeah. It's also narrated that moral conduct is declared to be more important than lineage. So in this sutta, it is also emphasized that moral conduct, or sila, is very important, is in the formation of human societies, and not about lineage. And the continuation of the society, it is also due to moral conduct, and not so much on lineage or tradition. Okay, so you can read it out on Aganya Sutta. Okay, anyone who have read it? Over here? Zoomers? I call you correctly? Zoomers? Correct? Right, sounds more glamorous, huh? Yeah, Zoomers, very glamorous. Now, I believe that this slide, you have seen it a few times. Previous speakers also explained about what is actually harmony. If you understand music, yeah, you can read the musical notes, then you know that the assembly of those musical notes produce very pleasing sound. Yeah, that's harmony. Yeah, and if for us, it's a situation in which people are peaceful and agree with each other, or when things seems right or suitable together. Yeah, seems right or suitable together. Yeah, peaceful, no argument, no quarrel, right? At peace, no complaint. Yeah, so this is harmony, in harmony. So today we want to look at how can we live in harmony with the world. There are many happenings around the world. Yeah, many. Okay, now it is not just about ourselves now. We need to look into a bigger picture. So I give you this map, right? Even though it's contained in one slide, but really is bigger than what we can think of. So if you look at the map, yeah, there are different colors, yeah, indicating different geographical formation in different parts of the world. Yeah, there are greens, yellow, probably dry areas, greens, probably a lot of greeneries, or a lot of plantations are going on. Yeah, so different parts of the world. But I personally, I would like to classify that there are these few components in the world. Okay, basically I have a classification. There are living and non-living components in the world. Yeah, living components and non-living components. Now, living, there are again these two things, living things and living beings. In the Buddhist context, maybe some of you will also be aware that living, there are these two things, two aspects. Yeah, living things and living beings. Now, we are all living beings. Animals also are living beings. Yeah, beings are those with consciousness, with the mind factor. Yeah, regardless of how developed the mind is, but they have the mind aspect, they have consciousness. So we classify them as living beings. Now, living things are those alive, but they lack of this component of consciousness. Like what? Huh? Plants, yes, correct, plants. What else? Bacteria, and the one which are closely related to us now, viruses. Influenza viruses, COVID, SARS, and all those viruses, they are considered as living things. Yeah, they are living, but they are lacking in this conscious part. Yeah, so living things and living beings. So in the world, there are these living, and further classified as living things and living beings. Non-living components, we know. Yeah, what are the non-living components? Air, yeah, earth. What else? Water. What else? No more? What else? Fire, wind. Yeah, all those are non-living components. And I would also want to classify, or I also want to look at the world in these two different components, human and non-human components. And particularly for today's sharing, I think I will focus more on human and non-human components. Okay, non-human components, I would like to share with you some videos which are more related to nature. Yeah, how do we live in harmony with nature, surroundings, nature? All right. So I have a few videos, right? Rather than I speaking, yeah, probably I will let you all watch the videos. Then later on, we will move to the human part.
We are of the earth. We cannot exist without her. The earth is our source, complex, diverse, living, shifting, evolving. The earth is our home, and we've made ourselves at home. We've transformed, manipulated, and built upon her. We have become detached from our source. Now we think we are in control. We think we have a place above nature. We no longer remember that we are of the earth, and that is our problem. Ultimately, the earth can exist without us, but we cannot exist without her. There are tangible consequences to our actions. Natural landscapes have become unrecognizable. Farmlands are barren. Wildlife is disappearing. The North and South poles are melting. We're not only depleting the earth, we are abusing her. We must remember that we cannot exist without her. Over the last 300 years, we have forgotten our connection to the earth. This connection has existed in the past, but it's all but lost today. In order to restore the Earth system, we need to create a new worldview, rooted in mindfulness and respect for the Earth. Our perspective needs to change. The Earth can regenerate if we give her the time and space to do so. Like us, she has the right to exist, to thrive, to flourish, to be respected. We once lived in harmony with nature, and to find that harmony today, we need to start making changes. We need an interdisciplinary network of thinkers and makers, all working towards a world with a new value system that is based on the health of the entire Earth system. We need to involve as many voices as possible, and we need everyone on board. Let's get back to live in harmony with nature. Will you be a part of the conversation?
People living in harmony with nature. That's the goal that inspires us at WWF. How to achieve this seemingly impossible goal? First, we focus on 35 of the world's most important natural places that need our protection. These places include the Great Barrier Reef, threatened by agricultural pollution, the jungles of Borneo, exposed to logging and land clearing, and the oceans of the South Pacific, endangered by overfishing. So how do we protect these places and species we love, while still making sure we have enough food and materials for a growing population? One of our strategies is to focus on key commodities that threaten priority places, and ask, how can we shift production to more sustainable practices? Do we try to convince 1.5 billion producers to change how they work? Or persuade 7 billion consumers to change what they buy? Another strategy is to focus on the largest companies with the most influence in the middle of the supply chain, the big retailers, manufacturers, traders and banks. We work with these companies to help them source and sell products that don't cost the earth. We also work with companies and other environmental groups to set up independent certification schemes that recognise best practice. This makes it easy for consumers and businesses to choose responsibly. Our aim is to shift entire markets towards sustainability, and it's already delivering great results. For timber, tuna and palm oil, certified sustainable products already account for more than 10% of the global market. This means less pressure on the animals and places we love. By focusing on solutions and working together, we're building a future where we can all truly live in harmony with nature.
Yeah, and in the first video, it is also mentioned that there needs to be a lot of changes from us. Right now, how do we change so that we can actually protect the nature? Or in another term, we can also say that how can we live side by side, or how do we live in harmony with the nature? When we are able to live in harmony with nature, meaning, in another word, meaning we don't harm it, but we can live very harmoniously with it. So individually, how can we make changes, in order to live in peace in the world or with the nature? How? The aspect of respecting nature, on how do we do to protect our nature in order to live in peace with the nature, is actually changing all this habit. Right? How do we consume? What is our attitude in consuming, or what is our real relationship with food? What is our relationship with food? We have relationship with many things. It's not just human relationship, right? How do we sustain our healthy relationship with nature? How do we sustain our healthy relationship with food intake, right? Healthy or not healthy, or based of greed, based of anger. Sometimes people eat because of anger. When they are angry, they eat and eat and eat. Right? So that is not healthy relationship. So different things, we can establish healthy relationship with those things. When there is healthy relationship, then we know that there is a balance. Yeah, there is a harmony with that items or with that person. Okay, so I believe that all of us have information on how to live in harmony with nature. It's just that whether we are active enough in undertaking those measures so that we protect the nature, we protect our Mother Earth, and we can live in harmony with it. Okay, so individually, I would urge that everyone take up some measures. Yeah, probably reducing plastics. Right, when we want to pack food, right, instead of getting plastic or those what is that, the packaging from the operator, right, we might as well bring our own container. Right, so all these little things, if every one of us can be aware, then we are really doing something to protect the nature. Right, I think everyone, for this one, we can do. Right, actively doing it, consciously knowing about it, and actively we do it. Right, so this is about the non-human component of the world, right, external world. The next part, I would like you to be aware on the more human component of the world. Right, now look at all this. Okay, what can you see? What can you see? Fighting, war zone. What else? Huh? Some destructions, probably due to natural disasters, volcanic eruption, flood, right? And when I show you this one, okay, this one, can I go back? Can I go? Yeah, these are war, right? The war zones. You see this political scenario, right? All this. it's not inclusive, but these are some of the scenes that you are able to see in everyday's news. Okay? All this may not be just beside us, but it is actually happening around the world. Right? So when we see this, this one, sorry. Right? When we read the news, or when we come across those news, the last one with the petting the animal. Okay, so when you see all this, what's going on in your mind? Do you feel anything now, or it's become so numb that when I read all this news, it doesn't arouse anything in me anymore? So these are very common scenarios, right? So as a part of the world, right? We are part of the world, the human component of the world. So when we see this, what can you do? Ignore it? There are some, I believe, that you can do something, right? And I know that some of you have actively done something in order to help those group of people. Okay? But for some who we cannot help, okay? What do? How can we maintain our equilibrium so that we are at peace with the happening? Right? Now, we remember also that in practicing, we protect our mind. Right? When we learn the Dhamma, why do we learn the Dhamma? It's to protect the mind from unwholesomeness. Remember that. Okay? So when we see this, very often people will have all those feelings, all those emotions, right? Very natural, right? It's not wrong or right, but it's very natural to have those feelings which were read out just now. Okay? But how can we be more understanding, right, towards all this happening? Okay? How can we be more harmonized with this kind of happening in the world as an individual? How? Okay, so I would like to offer you a few aspects. Okay, instead of ignoring it, right, because I'm not part of that. Okay, those happening in Sri Lanka, right, those happening probably in the parliament, right, to many of us, probably it doesn't concern me. Yeah, to many. If they want to fight, fight lah. Right? It doesn't concern me. But for some, it is the topic of conversation or gossip during lunchtime. Especially those political things. Like people tend to discuss over it during free time, during lunchtime. Right? And some can be getting very excited or probably heated argument about who you want to vote for, right? Which party you want to vote for. So there are these two extremes of how we see all those. Some maintain indifferent, bo chap, my chap. In Hokkien, we say bo chap. I don't care, right? You do your things, I do my things. Okay. But the other extreme is, wow, getting a heated argument. And another extreme is feeling sad and depressed, right? So all these, they are real in that sense that it happens to you, right? But in Buddhist sense, it is illusion. It is still an illusion, yeah? It comes and goes. So how do we as a Buddhist view all these things in a proper perspective, right? So that we can maintain equilibrium, can maintain equanimous. Equanimous doesn't mean bochap, doesn't mean indifferent. It is a near enemy, indifferent, right? So it is not like that. But how do we see this in its proper perspective? Okay, so I would like to offer you these 4 things. Firstly, on right view. Right view is the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, right view. What is right view? Seeing with proper right understanding on the 4 noble truths. Now, what is this 4 noble truths? There is unsatisfactory, there is unpleasant happening, there is suffering in the world. Okay? Then the second noble truth, due to desire, due to craving, right? Then human being encounter a lot of satisfactions and a lot of sufferings. The third noble truth, there is a way out. There can be an end of those suffering. And the fourth is, there is a way, right? And we also see, with proper understanding, right, the 3 characteristics of life. What are the 3 characteristics of life? Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Things are changing. The world is evolving, right? The human component, non-human component, living component, and non-living components in the world, they are constantly changing, right? Constantly changing. Anicca, right? So those are constantly changing. Okay? It has the nature of dukkha, suffering, right? And those with this nature, anicca and dukkha, its essence is non-self. There is no permanent entity to it. Okay? When we see those happening, right? Now, these are what we call living in samsaric world. We cannot expect everything will be perfect. Perfect. We cannot expect that, right? So all this happening can act as our guide or teacher or actually messenger to us every day. Okay? When you see all those news, right? There are people dying. There are people probably just given birth, but immediately die. Yeah. So all these, if we are observant and if we care about our practice. Now, all these, just now, the picture, serve as the messenger to remind us every day, right? What should we do to release ourselves from all this kind of unsatisfactoriness in life? Yeah. It should serve as reminders. We don't have to, always be at the temple or always be at the Buddhist center to be reminded about the nature of our life. We don't have to. We just need to open our heart, open our eyes, open our minds, and see those happening around us. That will give us a lot of inspiration. Yeah? Treat all those as our teachers. Then we can sustain our practice. Because all these are happening constantly, without stop. Right? But at the same time, be grounded, not being affected by all those. Grounded with right view. See those things in the right perspective. Okay? And another thing that we can use it as a reference or use it as a guide when we reflect on those happening is the understanding of the working of karma. Right? Now, even though karma is one of the things which is one of the 4 unthinkables, yeah, the working of karma is very complicated. We cannot understand fully how karma works. Because in Buddhism, we don't believe that we exist only in this particular life. There are many lives before, right? And there will be many lives later on. As long as we haven't attained the final liberation of Nibbana, we are still in the cycle of samsara, then there are many birth and death. And within that particular birth, right, there are many things that we do, right, through bodily action, through speech. Those volitional actions are called karma, right? The fruits of those intentional actions is called vipaka, which we experience it either this life or the subsequent lives. We do not know. So when we see all those things, we can also reflect on the working of karma. Why do these people get reborn in those places? Why do this group of people get reborn in a very secure, a very peaceful country? Right? Why beings born low and high? Why people have good mentality? Why people do not have good mentality? Why people are wise? Why people are not wise? Yeah. So when we see those things, besides having right perspective, we can also reflect on the working of karma. But be very careful. Don't say that, see lah, your karma lah. Don't. Okay? Don't ever make this kind of comment. Yeah? Don't. Because we need to understand the working of karma is not direct way. This and this. No, it's not that direct. There is a net of it linking in different direction, which we may not be able to see it clearly, besides our Lord Teacher, the Buddha, who is able to see the working of it, but we can't. But we can reflect on how wholesome things, right, can lead to wholesome fruits. So we can reflect on it. Sometimes in this particular life, we are able to see it. Right? You know it. So you can see it. But there are some you can't. But with faith in the Buddha Dhamma, we have faith in the working of karma. Now with that, we can also see those happening with equanimity. Okay, with equanimity. When we have equanimity, then there is a peacefulness inside us, right? Then we can harmonize with the world. Okay? The next one is moral virtues. Moral virtues in its basic form, it is the observing of 5 precepts. Okay, every Sunday we recite non-killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, right? No taking of intoxicants. So these are basic, which we can maintain harmonious relationship with one another and with the environment around us. When we look at the 3rd precepts, Kamesu Michachara. What is the translation? We abstain from committing sexual misconduct, right? So this is a common translation. But when we look at the Pali term itself, Kamesu Michachara, Kamesu Michachara. Kamesu means with our senses. How many senses we have? Really? 6, including the mind. 6. We have 6 senses, a lot. Too many. Right? Kamesu means with our senses. Michachara means what? Micha means wrong. Chara means conduct. So literally, this sentence means we commit in misconduct with our senses in broader aspect. Okay, not just sexual misconduct. If we look at it literally in broader sense, it means we commit wrongdoings with our senses. All right. So for those who are more serious in the practice, we can expand it a bit on these precepts, right? I try not to commit wrongdoing with our senses. How? Just now, the one that you share. Don't eat too much. We can eat, we can still eat, right? But don't overconsume. Don't, because of our desire, right? Don't because of our anger, right? We consume and consume and consume. So this is also not using our senses to commit wrong things. Okay, so individually we can expand our practice in such a way, right? So I also want to encourage you to expand your scope of practice. Yeah, try different ways, try creative way on how can we stay on course in the Dhamma. Right? Don't try not to just have the thinking that, oh, I only practice when I come to Buddhist center. No, right? If you have the mind, if you have the heart, right, protect it at all times. Don't protect it when you are only at Buddhist centers or Buddhist temple. Don't. Protect it at all times, because we know our mind and our heart, right, are always exposed to different stimuli. So how can we protect from all those stimuli? Okay. So anchor on the Dhamma, use your creativity, use your observation skill, right? You treat those as your teacher, your messenger, your reminder that, hey, I should be more vigilant, I should be more heedful, right? Then you can sustain your practice. You can sustain your also reflection based on the Dhamma, Buddha Dhamma. Okay. Last one is on Brahma Vihara. Brahma Vihara, there are 4. What are the 4? Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Ubeka. certain things, when you see the war and people suffering in the war, and you see those children, getting food from those throw from the rubbish heap, you feel something, right? You feel something. But can you help them at that particular time? Can you? Those people in foreign countries, okay, can you help them? Can you immediately help them? You can't. So what do we do? Do we continue to be muddled with our sadness? No. So instead of having those negative emotions for a prolonged period of time, what can we have? We can have thoughts of metta. We can also have thoughts of karuna towards them. If we can't do something physically to help them, but at least to protect the mind, we can use Brahma Vihara, right? Or in our daily practice of meditation. How do you practice metta? You radiate loving kindness towards oneself, right? May I be well and happy, and may I be free from physical and mental suffering. May I stay well and happy, right? So this is how we radiate metta to oneself. Now, can you radiate metta to this group of people? We can. We can. So instead of having negative emotions, right, which we really can't help them physically, right? We may send money across. We can make donation. However, we may not be able to do that at all occasions. We also need to acknowledge our limitations, right? There are so many things happening around us. Because of our human limitations, we can't actually go and help everyone. But how to maintain our equanimity of our mind? How to maintain the equilibrium of our mind? We can actually anchor ourselves with the Brahma Vihara. So when we see this, we can mindfully, with a sincere heart, we radiate some thoughts of a loving kindness towards this group of people, right? So in our daily sitting, we radiate, and then we also radiate people in the world, people in this district, people outside this district, people in this country, people outside this country, people in this continent, people outside this continent, people in this world, people outside this world. And after that, include all beings in the world. May they be well and happy. May they be safe and secure. Right? So with that, the heart and mind is more at peace, more in harmony with oneself and also people around us. And with that, right, we also connect with the world. But the connection with the world is a healthy one. It's a peaceful one. It's a harmonious one. Okay? Instead of feeling, I cannot do something. How do I do? How can I help? Right? Instead of feeling that kind of feeling of helplessness, right? We tweak it. We turn it into something positive. Right? Turn it into something positive. Acknowledging that there is limitation to us, to human beings. With also the understanding that there's always this kind of things happening because it is samsara. It's samsara, right? We face different kind of unsatisfactoriness. Even you are sitting here, do you face discomfort? I believe you do, because I see you moving. Right? Even though you are sitting here, you are not comfortable at all time. Right? Acknowledge it. Immediately know, hey, This is that satisfactoriness. This is unpleasant. Yeah. Okay. So this is something what we can do when we see those happening around the world. Yeah. And when we anchor ourselves in this few aspects, of course, this is not inclusive. There are many more, right? Like acceptance, compassion, right? All these are values that we can adopt. So what I mentioned here is not inclusive, but there are just some guiding points for you, right? So that we can anchor ourselves, we can protect our mind from falling into a negativity. Okay. Next one. Okay. Now, even though our topic here is living in harmony with the world, and just now what I mentioned was the external world. Now, there are two types of world. Okay, external world and our internal world. External world, we have discussed just now. We have shared with you just now, right? Internal world, there is another thing is internal world. The world with these senses, with all our senses, right? The world with all the internal organs in it. Now, this is also considered a world. And this is the world that the Buddha talked about, and not so much on the external world. Even though we live in the world, right, with all the more visible external world, right, to us, but the Buddha doesn't talk a lot on the external world, but the Buddha talk about internal world. Yeah, internal world is what we can address, right, as an individual. So let's see what the Buddha said about this internal world. Now, in the Rohitassa Sutta, in the Samyutta Nikaya 2.26, the Buddha states, in this very one fathom long body, along with its perceptions and thoughts, do I proclaim the world, the origin of the world, the cessation of the world, and the path leading to the cessation of the world. In this body, okay, with the matter, right? The matter, there's a mind and matter, the two components. With the matter, the body, and with the mind aspect, the perceptions, the thoughts, the consciousness, do I proclaim the world? This is the world, right? This is the origin of the world, the cessation of the world, and the path leading to the cessation of the world. This is the Four Noble Truths, which can be found in this body. Okay? So for us as practitioners, we try to focus more on this rather than external world. External world, there is a limitation to it. What we can do is that much, right? Beyond the limit, we can't really commit ourselves to address those issues in the world. How can you address all? Right? We can't. But internally, we can. We can address. Okay? Even though not within this lifestyle, this life, right? But we can still address it in subsequent life until the final liberation. So, now in the same thing, the same content, right? It is also found in the Anguttara Nikaya 4.45, Rohitassa Sutta, right? Same thing actually. Addressed to the Deva, a young Deva called Rohitassa. Okay. So for those who are interested to know more about this, then you can also read up this Anguttara Nikaya 4.45 or the Samyutta Nikaya. So I don't want to go through all this. Yeah. So the end of the world can never be reached by means of traveling across the world. If you read the text, the sutta, it says that even though one has the idea of traveling the world from this point to the end point, right? They only stop when they want to eat, when they want to rest. They only stop. But all other time, they just travel the world. But still, they cannot come to the end of the world. Yeah. However, for someone who wants to see the end of the world, then they need to commit themselves to the spiritual life. Right? Who has reached the world and lived the spiritual life will be able to come to the end of the world. Right? Come to the end of the world means Nibbana lah. Right? Nibbana comes to the end of the world at peace and will not be reborn again. Okay? So this is what the Buddha shared. The internal world. Another sutta also talking about the same thing. So you can see some emphasis here. Not just in one particular sutta, but there are a few other suttas where the Buddha say the same thing. So the emphasis is in this fathom long body, you can find the origin of the world, right? As well as the end of the world, right? So focus on this world rather than the external world. Another thing, if you are interested to know more, in Dhammapada, you know Dhammapada? Dhammapada stanzas of the Buddha saying with a lot of stories, right? All this verse comes with a story. And there is a chapter called The World. Chapter 13 in the Dhammapada called The World. So in this chapter, there are many Dhammapadas, there are many verses talking about the world. Not external world, but internal world. Okay, so you can see how important this internal world is to us as practitioners, right? Probably I will just pick one. Pick two probably. Verse 167. Do not cultivate the worldly. The Buddha advised us, do not follow base desires. Base desires rooted in greed, rooted in hatred, right? Rooted in illusion, delusion. Do not follow those desires, nor live with heedlessness, right? Unmindfulness. Do not follow wrong belief. Do not follow wrong belief. So with learning, with listening, with readings, right, with discussing, then we can build our right understanding. We build our right view, right? So do not follow wrong belief and grow in worldly ways, right? People following the worldly stream is following the worldly ways. But as someone who has learned the Dhamma, the Buddha advises, do not grow in worldly ways, right? And of course, there's a story behind. So I would also encourage you to go and read it. And this one, verse 173, evil is overcome by good, who by wholesome karma covers up the evil one. Meaning that those who have done something good actually so-called replace the unwholesome one, right? Covers up the evil done. Illumines the world as moon when free from clouds. Okay. Now this particular verse comes together with the story of Angulimala, right? I believe that the story of Angulimala, many of you know. Yeah, a killer, but after the intervene of the Buddha, then he actually renounced and become a monk. And after that, attained to the sainthood of arahatship. So someone who has committed wrongdoing, but it has been replaced by the goodness, by the wholesome thing, and renounce the world, become a monk, attain sainthood. So it's like the moon, which is free from clouds. So next time when you see the moon, all right, when you are driving along the highway, and when you see the moon, and when you see clouds, then try to recall the story, or try to recall certain things happening to you. Hey, I have done something not so good, right? But after that, I'm aware of it. Then I do something wholesome one to replace those unwholesome. So we can use all these, yeah, symbols, representations, which appear around us, right, as a reminder for us to continue to anchor in the Dhamma, right? So this is a story about Angulimala, yeah? Okay, now, lastly, I would like to pick this. This is actually from the first session. If you are here from the first session, inside every one of us is a garden. And every practitioner has to go back to their garden and take care of it. This is the garden. And it is also the world. Yeah. But the world probably is a lot bigger. Yeah. So we see it as, let's say, as our garden. And every practitioner has to go back to their garden and take care of it. Maybe in the past, you left it untended for a long time, right? Due to various reasons. You should know exactly what is going on in your own garden and try to put everything in order. Okay, restore the beauty, restore the harmony in your garden. If it is well tended, many people will enjoy your garden. Not you yourself enjoy the garden, but people associated with you will be able to enjoy the garden. Okay? Right? So that's the end of my presentation. So let us practice towards peace and harmony in the worlds. The worlds here means external worlds, as well as a lot of emphasis on our internal worlds. Right? So with that, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.